What if I told you that the breakthrough you're wanting in your business actually begins when there's a breakthrough in your story? And that the reason you're feeling unstuck isn't because you don't have ambition, actually because you have unhealed experiences. I know that hurts. I know that hurts. Well, today we're having a soulful and honest conversation with the one and only Christele Parham. Christele is a visionary leader and the founder of Ham Designs. But most importantly, before she started her business, she started her healing. I'm so excited to have Christele on with us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So before we start, can we just tell listeners how we met, how we connected a little bit?
Yeah.
I was trying to remember what year it was. Do you remember?
I know it was before, it was definitely before the 2010s ish. Cause,
That's
'cause,
true.
one thing I appreciate about growing up in a Caribbean family or culture, a lot of our lives are interconnected. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking, cause our friend got married when, to 2014 or 2015.
Oh god.
Okay,
I hope she doesn't watch this
I
as I'm
know, right?
pausing.
Okay, okay. So it was
2014?
before, like, way before that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll say that.
So we go
We
back.
go
We
back.
go
Anything before the pandemic is way back. So we go way, way
that
back.
that's fair. That is fair. Well, Christelle is good people, that's why she's on, I absolutely love
I
her.
love you too, Belinda.
Um Oh, thank you. And today we're gonna be talking about a topic that is really near and dear to both of us, and that's being healed
Ye-
and how that affects everything,
Mhm.
especially as you're stepping into your entrepreneurship journey or, if you're already along the way. So tell us as we get started, tell us a little about your journey, how you got into entrepreneurship, and then we'll talk a little bit more about like the healing
All right.
journey.
So I whenever a person asks me this question, I'm like, how deep do I want to go? Do I want to like
Oh, deep.
go like in the beginning? You know what I'm saying? But I think like for me, I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur because I
Mm,
grew up around it, right? So being Caribbean,
mhm,
you learn at early on about the exchange of product for money so that you can build something. So
mhm,
um I tell people all the time, like my great aunt, so the person that taught me how to read before I started school, she was one of the first entrepreneurs I saw because
mhm,
she owned a bookstore slash library, but she also had like a one of those, like, you know how like in the Caribbean where you go to someone's house and buy stuff like milk or
mhm,
all of that.
mhm,
Um, and then on this, my grandfather on my dad's side got sick, so he ended up building on the side of a house. He was a physician. I guess it's the equivalent
mm,
of a primary care doctor. So ended
mhm,
up building his office on the side of the home. And whenever I would go visit my family from my mom's side, my my grandfather from my mom's side owned, like, in the country, in the area that he lived in, he owned the only auto parts store in that region.
mhm,
And my grandmother, she also sold things and she did a lot. I tell people when I was younger and my mom wouldn't let me buy candy, I would sell my neighbors things so that she get some money to go buy me some candy. I saw my neighbors like printing of Barbies, um, a lot of stuff so I could get what I
Wait, knowingly, like, they knew you were selling or, like
my my mom knew I was oh, now she
so your
oh,
neighbors
no, she
selling
did,
their stuff.
they did. I told
Oh,
them I was
okay, okay.
selling things, you know? So yeah, I would sell things. I could go get me a snack or whatever. So yeah, being able to be around that at a young age, I saw that if you needed something, there were ways
Mhm,
to make it happen. So,
mhm,
all right. So fast forward. I also, like, when I lived in Florida, I started a jewelry business. So I would make handmade jewelry and things like that. Um, I don't know if
Did I
you knew
know that?
that. I don't think you knew that. I don't know if you knew, but
Well, you owe me some jewelry. I mean, like, that's
the conversation is
I just
breaking
want you
up.
to
I
know.
can't hear you. And then so as I started here, when I moved to Macon, so I've been in Macon, Georgia. Oh wow, it's so important. I have to give a shout out to Macon every time I talk about entrepreneurship.
Do it.
I'm always intentional about talking about where I live, which is Macon, Georgia, home of Little Richard and Otis Redding. Fun
I didn't
fact,
know that.
Delta Airlines started in Macon, Georgia. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's important to remember, like, in the middle of the state, there is like energy here around.
Mhm.
So what happened was I knew, like I mentioned, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know when. So at the time, one of the biggest endeavors that led me onto full-time entrepreneurship was when I started working as an innovation consultant at a local hospital and being able to have the flexibility to do research, to focus on innovative ways to impact healthcare from a proactive lens rather than reactive. Um,
Mm,
that really did something to me. Like that really woke up that part of me that had been dormant for so long, the part of me that
mm,
knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So it really challenged me to see like how can I expand that love that I had. So how I even got into that is one day the hospital was having a campaign about ideas, right? I don't
mhm.
know if it's the Caribbean in me. I'm very competitive. So, and then you could kind of see like who was winning in ideas and
Mhm,
like people would also vote for your ideas. So every time my
mhm.
score would go lower, I would just fight. But now looking at it, I was like, okay, Christelle. So it was to the point that the people in that in the innovation department came to look for who is this person. So I ended up leaving the organization and they ended up creating a position and asking me if I wanted to work with them. Um,
Mhm,
but that was one of my best experiences because as an introvert, timid person, this was like the best team for me to kind of grow and thrive in that area.
mhm,
Like even when, you know, when you work in the startup culture, you're always pitching something. It's not always a pitch competition. So you're always scouting new ideas. You're always pitching what
mhm,
is promising. And a lot of times, you know, you might pitch like 10 things, but only one is viable. So,
mhm,
and to be an introvert in that sector, that was not something that I was used to. But one of my colleagues and my teammates, like he would always like call me before pitch time to like go over my pitch with me. Like this was like the first time that I had experienced such a team that was like intentional in the work that we were doing.
mhm,
We looked out for each other and everything. So, as things started happening, they ended up closing that department. And I had just renewed my lease. I did my last pitch, and then they're like, "By the way, Christelle, this is your last one." And we signed our new lease Friday. I did my new pitch on Monday. They waited for me to be done. And I was like, man, like, I wish they didn't have me like do all the full,
mhm,
you know. But anyway, so that was really scary. But
mhm,
fast forward, and what I recognized with being so invested within my own community, the work that I was doing in healthcare could be like what is the word, duplicated into community
mhm.
work. And then I started my organization, but through that as well we also ran a community organization. So that was the long version of your question.
No, I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for telling us about your history. There's so many gems in there. You know, it's It's so interesting. I love how you're saying at the end, you could see how it applied to the community,
Mhm.
right? And as you're talking, I was thinking about your journey and how it like aligns with my journey, being newer to entrepreneurship compared to you, but also really loving the opportunity to provide strategy and innovation for the community.
Yes.
Uh, so in the competition part too. Glad we were in the competition together.
I know that's right. Yeah. I agree. Like the whole idea of like recognizing that I don't know how controversial that is. Natural selection exists. So you gotta consistently like think about being beyond like always thinking beyond where you are.
Mhm, mhm. I love that. I love that. So you've talked to us about your entrepreneurship journey. At what point along the journey, either before or during your beginning parts of entrepreneurship, did you realize, okay, there's a healing component? There's something about like me that I need to be able to tackle in order to keep living out my dreams or to pursue something else.
Well, Belinda, let me tell you something. You can't say you have a business and you're an introvert and you're not making sales. Like that is,
Mm,
especially as a service-based company, it's not like you're
mhm,
not gonna have customer-facing interactions. Like, um, I people assume that I'm extroverted, but I am very, very, very introverted, right? So recognizing, so as I started going to therapy around 2016. Um, I was dealing with a lot of trauma and as a I don't want to like label it Caribbean, but sometimes in some mentalities you often think that could be cultural. You often think that you just have to keep pressing forward.
mhm,
There's only so much pressing forward what you can do without tackling the things that you're
mhm,
avoiding till they show up, right? So it showed up in 2016 and I had to face it. And so having gone to therapy and I started my journey there, it unraveled a lot for me and it allowed me
mhm,
to see how many experiences are interconnected. So like, although for me, I live my life in a way that I tend to compartmentalize my work life, my
mhm,
personal, I have not always done a good job at that, and the pain points have revealed themselves. But like going through therapy, like starting that journey in 2016, allowed me to see that, like, in order for me to show up as the best version of myself, I have to
mhm,
consistently unpeel the onion or myself to see how to be best presented. Cause like one of the things as I transitioned more into doing community work, what came up for me was realizing that the, the pain points that I wanted to solve, I wanted to be intentional about not being part of the problem.
mhm,
But in order to do that in community organizing or like programming, it was important for me to realize that everyone carries a bias, right? So that means I carry a bias. So when I show up in the community, I have to be able to be receptive to the things that I might not want to hear that the people that I am working for are navigating. And I don't want to create a culture where people are not vulnerable. So
mhm,
consistently like mapping out what does that look like. So that part, but additionally, um, business, because we're talking about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a
mhm,
business. Whether you're running a not-for-profit or for-profit organization, you have to think about your bottom line so that you can create. And
mhm,
so, like a lot of times in my framework, I'm a planner. Like I have to consistently allocate time to see, like, what are the areas that I'm avoiding and who can I put as an auditor that will not be afraid of telling me what to do in those spaces.
mhm,
And in the beginning, like, I think sometimes, like, also my perspective is there's always a solution to a problem. I didn't
Mhm.
realize I was gonna be talking this much.
No, I love that.
There's always a solution to a problem. So though you and I have talked before, like one of the things that human-centered design or system thinking teaches us is it's important um how you frame questions when you have a problem, right? So
Mhm.
even before being introduced to the world of innovation um or human-centered design, like there was this book I read when I was like 18, 19. Um it was a lady, I forgot her name, but the name of the book was There's No Business Like Your Own Business or something. And
Mm.
she talked about all the solutions that she had to build the life that she wanted. Like she was like, I got kicked out of my home. So I started sweeping people's floors or whatever. So like I always have that mentality of like when I need something, there is a
Mhm.
solution at this very moment that is available to me that allows me to work my way to getting the solution that I really need. Like that's
Mhm.
been my mindset. And it's the same, like even though like I I'm an introvert, that means I suck at small talk, but I can build deep connections. That's why
Mhm.
wherever I go,
Mhm.
I always find somebody that I know, right?
Mhm.
So willing it back in when it comes to like healing. Uh,
I love that.
what did you say?
No, I say I love it. Keep going.
Yeah. So like um knowing how like being able to work as an entrepreneur, like recognizing that I wanted to be part of the social impact sector. It was important
Mhm.
for me to know, like, what are the things that I carry and not show that, bleed that into the people that I'm serving. So I needed to have people in my life, like my therapist, like my business
Mhm.
coach, um, that are able to see my blind spots so that I can in safe spaces as I'm unraveling those things. What?
No, there's just so much. There's so much that you shared. I don't want to go. Um, so one of the things that you said was peeling that you felt like you had to be peeled back like an onion,
Mhm.
right? Or being able to like peel yourself back so you can understand more like what was like in the core and what's kind of driving that.
Mhm.
There is um a game that I play called the Y game. And I just did this with a small group of like entrepreneurial women that I'm coaching. And I told them, I was like, I don't know if someone introduced me to this game years ago and I just forgot. Sorry, I would give attribution, but like I've just been doing it for a while
Yeah.
and it helps. And I want to impromptu play this game
Yeah. Well,
and where like I I won't put you on the spot unless you want to do it like after me, but I'm just gonna ask you to ask me the question why. And so let me set this up because I would love for listeners who will do this for themselves as well.
Mhm.
So it's very simple. Um, you start with the question and then you keep asking yourself why, and then you respond. Then you ask yourself why again, and then you respond. For those that might feel a little timid and don't want to verbalize it, you could also do this with journaling to get a little deeper. Um, so Christelle, throw a question out there about like entrepreneurship or goals or purpose or something to me. And then I'll respond and then you ask me why.
Okay. Why did you feel the need to leap into entrepreneurship?
Hmm. I wanted to leap into entrepreneurship because I wanted to connect more deeply with women on their pathway.
Um,
Just ask me why.
why? Like,
Um, 'Cause I feel like women are often overlooked
mhm.
and they need someone who can be really intentional, someone who's there because they want to be there for them. Like they want to see the best come out of them.
Why?
Um, well, I know that from personal experience, it's been really hard to balance entrepreneurship with work and with um, family responsibilities and social responsibilities and yeah, just kind of feeling like there's a lot to shoulder. And so being someone in that role, having experienced that, um, and also seeing where I could, make a business out of it in order to keep doing it,
Mhm.
right? Where I didn't have to like give of myself, but also be on the streets. uh,
Real.
that was, yeah, that was my goal. That was my goal.
That's awesome.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like being able to like interconnect your quality of life with the way that you choose to impact the world is like
Hmm.
that's what I heard. And that was really
Hmm.
good.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you. Yeah, I have used this game in so many settings for myself, for
you.
others,
Mhm.
to really get at the root layer. And what I love about it is it usually gets you down to understanding a little bit more about your values or maybe some challenges that you've are processing or have overcome that really have just kind of been buried.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's really freeing, especially for those that want to do it with them, by themselves, and not necessarily have other people listening. Yeah, I've just found it to be very helpful. So,
I love it. Yeah, I've done this exercise too. Like I've done it in my work, I've done it personally. And I think that it's important for us to kind of get to the core of what we're
mhm,
navigating as we're wanting to choose a new chapter. It allows us
mhm,
to kind of like, because I don't know about you, like there are systems, there are things that we do so repetitively that we no longer ask ourselves why. So that question is so important because it kind of like
mhm,
audits our decision making. I
mhm.
love it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah. So yes, the repetition, but also just doing something without, like, fully thinking. Like, I remember one time listening to a business coach, and, one of the things that he said is, "We are best positioned to help the us, like, 3 years ago, like, the version of us, 3 years ago."
Mhm.
And, and I think it's one thing to be like, "Okay, yeah, like, I understand her, I understand, like, them, like," but really start to not just think about, like, what you went through 3 to 5 years ago, but um, all the underlying pain points, like all like the history, so that when you're trying to help someone who was like the version of you 3 or 5 years ago, you're not just going in guns blazing, but you're because you're healed and you're so wonderful now. But like, but you go in with that level of empathy and
Yeah.
just really wanting um, to meet people where they are, not leave people where they are, but meet them where they are. Right. So, yeah.
This is so good. What's coming up is being able to see, like, hold space for the raw, like, because I think that
Mhm.
we often live in spaces where everything is rushed. Like you said,
Mhm.
sometimes because we've gone through something, we rush through the thinking we have the solution, but it could actually be harmful if the person doesn't feel safe enough, like if
Mhm.
they don't feel heard even though you think
Mhm.
that you have the solution. So holding that
Mhm.
space for them through an empathetic lens is helpful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So I know kind of going back to your journey a little bit, you were just saying that like in 2016, you started to know some things and then decided to start therapy.
Mhm.
What was that? Can you talk a little more about the journey between like recognition, accepting that like I need assistance in this
Mhm.
and actually being willing to go for therapy or for maybe other people out there that are listening. It may be therapy, it might be just like starting the conversation with someone else and be like, "Hey, I need help."
Yeah.
Um, but as much as you can remember.
Yeah. So I had what was happening was I had gone our our family had gone through a lot of deaths, and then like it was
Yeah.
also like I was consistently working and didn't take a break and showing up in a lot of spaces. And one day I'm in my office trying to do some extra work. And then I get a panic attack, right? Did not
Wow.
know what a panic attack was. I just thought that the Lord was calling me home. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, my husband hears me um he walks in the room, he says that I look like I'm possessed because I keep screaming
Yeah.
Jesus out loud. Um I can laugh about it now, but I remember
Yeah.
feeling like I couldn't breathe, like it was like so strange. And I called my mom, or my mom Arian calls my mom, I can't remember. And she just tells us to come drive to Florida. Um, and at the time, my manager actually knew what a panic attack was. So she was like, I
Mhm,
completely understand. Um, and I appreciated that. So I
mhm,
think she might have been the one that told me about the EAP because I had never heard about EAP before. Because you know how sometimes
mhm,
you get onboarded, but you don't really pay attention. Well,
mhm,
now as an adult, I pay attention to
mhm,
everything. But back then, I was like, just okay, I'm ready to start my work.
mhm,
But
mhm,
so I called my therapist, and I'm grateful because the therapist that I used through the EAP program, although I'm no longer with the organization, I still use them to this day
mhm,
because the way that I connected with her allowed me to
mhm,
kind of unravel way more
mhm,
through that experience. I was able to, because it was really bad because even though I took the break, like it would be like um I would be at work and then it kind of felt like I was having a heart attack, but it wasn't.
Wow.
And it would happen consistently. So even like last year, the year before, I started experiencing something similar, but at least now I knew what to look
Mhm,
for. And um so but it allowed me to recognize that there was no through my therapy journey, like a lot of the things that I label as emergencies or
mhm,
urgencies, they weren't urgencies. And I couldn't say, like, I am part of what I'm solving for. So if I'm
mhm,
neglecting myself, like,
mhm,
I'm not, solving for what I say I'm solving for. And it took a lot of work to unpack that because I think that in my journey of going through therapy, it allowed me to, like, going back to the whole aspect of unraveling, like
mhm,
the more I'm able to unravel, the deeper I can get into, like, the things that I'm navigating around. So it's never one of
mhm,
those, like, solve for everything. It's more of a, like, no, I can see a deeper root of something else,
mhm,
uh,
mhm,
and it allows me to kinda, like, see myself on the outside of myself so that I can continuously, unravel to be better, you know?
mhm,
Um, so the hardest part of healing is the guilt for me. Like, when I started saying no more,
mhm,
it's how
mhm,
I'm not gonna lie, you know? Like, I realized in therapy that I really needed to tackle my people pleasing because it was actually hurting
mhm,
me, hurting my business, hurting so many things,
mhm,
And just because you say no and it's not received well, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong?
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and it allowed me to see like the more I say no to things, the more it create room for alignment so that I can be better, but also be better for the people that I'm serving. I'll pause right here.
That's so important. No, that's so important, and, I've spoken about people pleasing on the podcast before, and it's something that, you know, really one of my now former staff members, now that I've jumped into entrepreneurship full time, um, pointed out to me actually in a way earlier in 2025. Um, and one of the things that she says, "Belinda, you're too available. Like you're too available for us." And I was like, "What do you mean I'm too available?" Like, okay. And so it prompted some internal discussion and, like you said, I guess reflection in real time, or there's a better word, but assessment in real
Yeah.
time. So the next time I wanted to be overly available, or one thing that I used to do, I've become a little better, but still on the journey, is it'd show up in the sense of giving deadlines that felt acceptable to people, but put myself at a detriment,
Yeah.
if that made sense.
It's
So yeah, and so it was really helpful. It was really helpful, that and, other things to be able to see. And I love that you said at the end that, you being able to, lessen the people pleasing allowed you uh, to have better alignment for yourself in the business.
yeah.
Are there other ways that you've seen, the business improve, or you or your relationships improve, by working more
Yeah.
on healing?
Yeah, I love what you said about being too available because I can definitely relate to that. Um, like, so something that happened a few years ago, I invested a lot of time and money into like my CRM in my system,
Mhm,
my workflows and automation, right? But because I was still I mean, I'm not saying that I've eradicated people pleasing in me, because like going back to the whole healing part of unraveling, right? Uh,
mhm,
I was like, why am I not using the system that I had spent ample time, you know, in like, launching? So I created it for a reason, right? So that if there's alignment, we move forward. If there's no alignment, I can either like show you, like give you an option of like other available consultants or what have you. Um, and
mhm.
I always felt bad because you know how sometimes like a person might be like, "Oh yeah, I did this, or I really need this, or I work with this person and it was a bad." I automatically take on. Can we talk about
Yes.
empathy a lot, but we don't talk about if we're not intentional, we can adapt the toxic version of empathy, right? Where you take on a person's
Mhm,
emergency and it's not yours to carry. And then you're
mhm,
here like working a person's emergency that is not yours to carry, right? It
mhm.
doesn't really solve anything because it's not your lesson to learn, right? So,
Right.
yeah, and I, for a long time, had a hard time with that.
Mhm,
Like, I was like, Christelle, going back to like always having a solution at your fingertip. I'm like, Christelle, you literally solved for this already. So I started using that more and it actually gave me my time back. And
mhm,
also, like, I think that I heard somewhere like journalists, one of the good things of like people that are journalists as they interview, they take advantage of the pause, and they don't feel the need to fill the silence because the person that
mhm,
they're interviewing, like, so I kind of adapted that to me, like just because a person before I felt the need to like answer the pause, like, oh, you can't do it this way. Let me help you with that. So I pause and allow the person to make their own decision. So that also
mhm.
is
That's good.
like releasing the people pleasing, right? Yeah. So
Mhm.
I hope I answered your question, Belinda.
Yeah, and you're helping people grow. You're
Yeah. But I'm
helping
also
people
helping
mature.
myself.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
I love that. Wow. I love the practicality in that. That's really helpful. I will definitely adopt that and and just pause.
Yeah,
Pause and stare. I think that's
a smile. Yeah, and I think that's even in negotiation, like, silence is what
yeah.
is really, helpful because oftentimes people feel like they need to fill the silence, but you don't have to. It
Mm,
allows you to kinda, like, reason and negotiate with yourself so that you can get
mm.
to the next, um, end goal or what have you.
I love that. I love that. Well, Christelle, I have to say this, and so everybody watching also hears this. This is part one.
Oh, wow.
This is part one. Just want to make sure
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I,
the schedule for part
okay.
two and maybe part three. But
Let me stop. Of course. I love it.
wait for the pause. Wait for the pause.
Okay.
No, but it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful having you. I so appreciate just your time. I know you're highly in demand and there's so much more that we can unpack with you. So I do hope that there at some point, that we can bring you back. But before we jump off today, tell listeners where can they find you and where can they keep up with you?
For sure. Um, okay. So I I'm on LinkedIn. We also run a nonprofit called MBT Collective, where we are engaging in supporting early stage founders through programming and also research, because we often hear about on words we cannot say in 2025. Um, but you wanna like, going back to the work that we're talking about from a proactive, um, lens, like, being able to understand a founder's journey, holistically so that we can best support them. So a lot of the work that we have been doing on the back end is, like, doing the research on that, on how to support entrepreneurs holistically within our own communities. Um, we also run a co-working space reporting to you live at in downtown Macon. So if you're ever passing through, check out cratex.co. Um, yeah, and I think that's it.
And I'll be sure to link down below,
Awesome.
your website so they can find you easily.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Christelle, for being with us today. It's just a pleasure. It's a pleasure learning from you as an OG in entrepreneurship
I'm an
world.
OG. I'm a student of the game. Okay. And I really have enjoyed talking to you a lot recently and being able to see, like, I caught a snippet of your podcast on LinkedIn. Um,
Mhm,
and also, like, keep doing the incredible work that you're doing because I think it's so important to be able to have community as entrepreneurs. Because for me, when I wanted to go into entrepreneurship, I didn't have a community. I had to listen to a podcast, you know?
mhm,
So all the
mhm,
resources always available at your fingertips.
mhm,
There's nothing like having community. So continue to do the
mhm.
work that you're doing.
Thank you, thank you. All right, fam. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you catch us on next week's episode of the Seasons and Stewardship. All right, take care.